Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Riding of Yorkshire series. Together with the unparished city of Hull, it forms the county of the same name. There's 172 parishes here. Which one are we in today? Welcome back to the East Riding of Yorkshire, everybody. Now, sometimes I look at the map and I think to myself, oh, that's going to be an easy little village to walk around. And then when it comes to planning the route, it ends up being a really difficult one. This one falls into that bracket. As such, the drive-in, which you're about to see, tried to catch the primary school. You can't really see it. It's on the left-hand side, so you need a good eye. But it's there, trust me. Anyway, this is the parish of Skipsea. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Like I said at the top, folks, the primary school is on the left-hand side here as I drive into Skipsea. It stands at the eastern end of another village which is located on the East Yorkshire coast, although that wasn't always the case. Skipsea's name reveals a massive clue as to how things used to be here centuries ago. The very word Skipsea is of Viking origin and it means ship lake. The name is believed to be a reference to an inland lake which the sea has now claimed, but could also refer to the three Skipsea Meres, large glacial lakes known as Withow Mere, Low Mere and Withow Mere. At least two of them were natural, but one was possibly created as part of the defences for Skipsea Castle. Skipsea was once referred to as a town, developing as such thanks to that castle and its associated church. During the 13th and 14th centuries, there were local markets and fairs. Modern Skipsea is reliant on two main things, agriculture and tourism. It has plenty to attract people to it. The remains of Skipsea Castle are a good start, but there's also things like a popular ice cream parlour, the Skipsea Sands Caravan Park, and of course the sea, complete with its long sandy beach. Skipsea is also famous for being a possible site for nuclear testing in the 1950s. In short, folks, this is a good one, so let's get walking and check all of that interesting stuff out. Our start point is one of Skipsea's most historically important buildings, the Church of All Saints. This stands at the western end of the village. It was built in the late 11th and early 12th centuries and was the religious house tied to the village's most historic landmark. More on that in a little while. The two were linked by a causeway over Skipsea Withow Mere, one of the three glacial lakes. The church is partly Norman, but mostly perpendicular in its architectural style, and the tower still shows evidence of being constructed from cobbles, stones which were quarried from the beaches right here in Holderness. It's a Grade 1 listed structure. All Saints isn't the only religious building in the village either. If you walk towards the village centre, you'll pass on the way a Methodist chapel which was built in 1910. It stands on the same site as an original 1823 chapel and was still active until last year when the difficult decision was made to close it. Now later on in this video we'll be visiting that Skipsea Castle. which is just to the west of the main village. But of course there's a village to walk around first, and there's plenty of things to see here. I'm going to head up Bridlington Road next and catch what's up there. Bridlington Road next, and this pretty little building on the corner is named Peter Pan Cottage. I thought that was unique enough for its inclusion. We're not going to Narnia though, the village hall will have to do. This is a brand new building which replaced the old village hall on Cleaton Lane, built in 1951. After the closure of the Methodist Church, many local groups and societies meet here. It's also where there's a parish notice board, so you can all mark Skipsea off that East Riding list. Over the road there's a green space, almost like a little garden. An oasis of calm along a busy road. This has got a bench where you can sit and watch the world go by. Back to the centre of the village now, there's a cottage all on its lonesome on the corner of Back Street. Behind this is the village green. The green has a handful of landmarks, including the War Memorial on the other side. We'll catch that further round. For now though, on this side, there's a cute little well. Okay, so on the well there's a little plaque which says it was built with kind donations from Lisset Wind Farm Trust, Robin and Judy Wilmot of Mill Farm Country Park, and Judith, Stephen and Harry Foreman of Mr. Moo's Ice Cream. Now that last one is one of Skipsea's tourist attractions. You can find it to the south of the village on the road to Attic, and that is today's special section. On the road to Attic is Mr. Moo's Ice Cream Parlour, one of Skipsea's main tourist attractions. Established in 2003, they serve a range of beautiful old-fashioned ice creams which have won awards. They have over 30 different flavours to sample and source their milk and cream from Chestnut Dairies in Hornsea, who in turn collect fresh milk from local East Yorkshire farms every day. It truly is the definition of a local business. Since opening in 2003, the parlour has expanded in size to include a campsite. The customer base has grown too. Mr. Moo's Ice Cream is enjoyed from Runswick Bay to Spurn Point and from Hull to Leeds, plus everywhere in between. Additionally, it's a well-known fact that this part of the East Yorkshire coast was lined with World War II defences. From the parlour, it's possible to take a mile-long stroll through the trees at the back of the campsite down to the beach. In doing so, you pass a former Royal Observer Corps underground monitoring post, complete with an information board. Back to the walk, and here's Back Street once again. You could say Backstreet's Back, but I was never a fan of that song. Anyway, this is where we'll find the village's only pub. That pub is the Board Inn. This was known to many locals in the past as Harry's Place. It was built originally for the local farm workers, but now caters more for the tourists. It runs something called Fish and Chip Wednesdays with a full chippy style menu. There's nothing quite like fish and chips by the sea, I'm sure you'll agree. Moving on, over the road you'll see some buildings with a stone-carved logo upon them. These were built in 1997 by the developer House Martin Homes. Here's that logo up close. Housing-wise, Skipsea hasn't really seen much in the way of major development down the years. It's been more a case of infill here and there. We emerge onto Mill Lane. Skipsea has had 5 windmills in its time, but none remain today. This street's name refers to the one that once stood at Cleaton Manor. And if you walk up Mill Lane, you find that you are met with 2 dead ends. Mill Lane runs off into the distance, but it is a dead end eventually. There's a dead end sign just there. And also a dead end is Cleaton Lane. I'll just hop out of the way of this car. I think he's turning anyway. Yes, he is. So Cleaton Lane, where this car is going, is also a dead end. And annoyingly, this is what made the route so difficult to plan, because you know, you look for a footpath, don't you, on a road like this to link through to another street, and there isn't one, and it's so annoying. Otherwise I would have walked down here had there been a path and made a massive loop to come back round onto the main street. As it is, there's no way through, so I've got to go back down here. It's mainly all residential up there anyway, so I don't think it was missing terribly too much. So yeah, we'll go back down to this junction here and take a brief left turn towards the primary school before heading back along the main street to where we started. Now for a look at Skipsea's main through route. Buses stop right here, and the services you'll be getting are the number 130 and the HS5, both of which link Skipsea to Hornsea and to Bridlington. Most of the main road is residential. It's an eclectic mix of housing, in fact, ranging from the very new to the very old. Chapelgarth, off this main road, falls on the newer side of the spectrum. It takes its name from a former Congregationalist chapel, which no longer stands. According to Januki, it was built in 1875. The same website also states there was once a national school here too, erected in 1845, which the current school took over from. Skipsea does have a shop and a post office, which we're working our way towards. Judging by the architecture of some of these buildings, there may well have been more in days past. Lastly, we come to the War Memorial, a 4-sided column. 12 names are shown on this, 8 from World War I and 4 from World War II. And that's brought us full circle to Skipsea village store and post office, which is in your shot right now. All I've got to do is walk past this back to the car because it's parked near the church, and then we'll head down towards Skipsea Castle next. To get to Skipsea Castle, we have to drive about a mile to the west of the village into a small hamlet known as Skipsea Brough. It's essentially a cluster of houses on a bend in the road towards Beeford. The Brough, as it's sometimes referred to, doesn't have a lot to write home about other than the castle itself. The monstrous mound stands within a field of earthworks just to the north of the settlement. Here's a bit of history before we get to it. The castle was a Norman Motte and Bailey type effort, the sort of castle we've met countless times before. It was built in around 1086 by Drogo de la Mere, and if you think you've heard that name before, you have. It was in the Barrow upon Humber episode of North Lincolnshire. Of Flemish origin, he was the first Lord of Holderness, a title bestowed upon him by William the Conqueror. Legend has it that Drogo murdered his wife by giving her a poisoned draught, which he had to believe was a love potion. Her ghost is said to haunt Castle Hill. So I have to admit, when I planned this route, I wasn't sure whether I could actually park in this little, I suppose it's like a little track, a little lay-by, isn't it? I'm not quite sure. There's no signs that say you can't, so, you know, and if this is field access, they've definitely got enough room there, haven't they, between the wall and the car. I'm not going to be here all that long anyway, so that's, I suppose, a good thing. So let's head over this stile. You will be able to see Skipsea Castle very, very easily when I get over the stile, because it is such a tall mound. It's one of the tallest castle mounds I think I've ever seen. There it is, over there. And you can walk across to it, so I'm going to find the footpath that does, and then we're going to stand on top of it and see what the view's like. At the entrance to the castle, there's a small information board which basically tells you a potted version of the castle's history. It's not greatly extensive, but it gives you the idea. The castle was designed to defend against any potential Danish invasion and control the trade route across the region leading to the North Sea. It was built on the remains of an Iron Age mound, a fact that was only discovered in 2016. It was thanks to this castle and its associated church that Skipsea ever grew as a town in the first place. Skipsea Brough was built alongside the castle in around 1160 to capitalise on potential trade. The castle was destroyed in 1221. At that time, its owner was William de Fors, the Count of Ormel. He rebelled against Henry III, and as a result, it was captured by royalist forces and torn down. By the end of the 14th century, its remains were practically worthless. Today, its massive mound and associated earthworks are managed by English Heritage. Okay, the wind noise might be a factor in this bit because it's very breezy up here, but what a view. You can see the sea just in the distance, and of course if you look the other way you can see all the other earthworks and how well pronounced they are. Fabulous, isn't it? Skipsea Castle is well worth coming to, but you've got to be prepared, obviously, to climb right to the top. It's not easy, and remember, climbing up is only half the battle. You've also got to get back down. To finish with, we're heading for the next village, and in doing so I drove through two tiny hamlets also within the boundaries, those being Dringhoe and Upton. Next week we'll be taking on one of the longest villages in East Yorkshire, which is at least double the size of Skipsea. Hope you're ready for a long walk. I'll see you there, folks. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.